Hello, the name is Mingut, and I am one of Sigmar's most powerful and loyal warrior priests.
For Sigmar!
I'm also something of an accomplished leader in combat, leading just under 500 men at the moment against the forces of chaos and other undesirables, you could say. But fighting outlaws, deserters, chaos raiders, and beastmen has only gotten me so far. Surely there must be more. There must be more honor that I can bring onto the Empire and for the Emperor. I bet there is. Let's go find some. Well, first things first, my recent victories, which there are many, many of, have left me with a pretty penny in my pocket. So maybe we use this money to gather up a larger army and also even make myself look a bit more impressive before offering ourselves to the Emperor. Perhaps we'll travel back to the good old city of Averheim to go about doing so, and at the city we would end up finding ourselves some nice cataphracts armor, much better at protecting our soft and squishy bits than the current armor that I'm wearing. Not to worry though, I have several warrior priests under my command, so I'm sure one of them will like having my old armor. Besides, this fits me much better. I would also end up purchasing myself an Empire strapped helmet, a nice big metal brain bucket that's sure to protect our heads much better than our headband that we've been wearing thus far, which really only protected a little ring around my head, so this is nice. My, Mingit old boy, you're really moving on up in the world. A nice new fresh set of armor, eh? We just need one more thing to go with it. Now, don't fret or fuss, my friends, for I'm still keeping my hammers on me at all times in case I were to want to use them, but I think it's about time that I got a little better with a sword, more acquainted, you could say. The Emperor is only going to want a very skilled warrior within his service, and a skilled warrior needs to know how to use multi-weapons. We need to find somebody to use this on. Alas, it would seem that the first blood that my new sword shall taste is going to be the blood of many a beastman. Nothing better for target practice, though. You could kind of consider this on-the-job training. Sure, I could practice my sword against Randolph or Bella, my fellow warrior priest who are within my service, or even maybe poke a straw dummy with it a few times, but I don't really think that that's a good way to learn. Besides, straw dummies can't fight back like this. Look at all those arrows. Ow. We would set our sights a bit to the north, heading that way across these beautiful lands to the capital city. The beautiful city of Altdorf. Now that I've finally prepared myself and my men, I think it's time we offer our sword and services to the Emperor in person. He wasn't there, though. It was this lady by the name of Margravine Isabella von Hasselhoff, or something. I think that she might actually be related to the Emperor and might be in charge in his absence, so I decided to offer my sword and services to her. However, upon offering myself and my men, apparently she doesn't really like us and will need to try to improve relations with her. I have a feeling this has something to do with me executing all those cultists myself instead of bringing them to justice properly. Sorry about that. Well then, it looks like we're going to need to try to get into the good graces of the Empire, his family, and trusted advisors. So I'm going to start hunting down outlaws, bandits, and deserters in the area, as well as filthy beastmen encampments. Not that we really minded anyway. We were probably going to head this way and start slaughtering these bastards on our own anyhow. So we might as well do it to make the Emperor happy. Protecting these lands furthermore, and these folks won't be coming back anytime soon, of course. Everyone should be safe and sound, and the Emperor should be quite pleased. Let's ask him. There I stood, finally face to face with the Emperor. Apparently, though Margravine didn't tell him about me, I thought she might at least mention my chiseled jawline or beautiful bald head, but I suppose not. Apparently, all the slaughtering and cleaning up I did around the lands didn't really tickle his fancy, so I decided to just offer him about 23,000 gold or something like that, and voila! All of a sudden, he knows that I'm a brave warrior and a fine leader of men. Funny how a small fortune of gold could really jog his memory, but I'll take it. we had a nice little ceremony standing here together where I would swear my eternal servitude to Reichland and also to the Emperor and warrior god Sigmar. And you know what? It was actually kind of beautiful. Well, that was totally badass, but something even more badass is the fact that the Emperor actually offered me some of his best men to take into combat. It would seem that he does truly feel that I am actually a leader of men. Not only a leader, but a good leader, as you can see. He also offered me something of a gift. This was the Justiciar, one of the Emperor's own personal swords, and I shall carry it into battle, dishing out justice, the true divine justice of the Emperor, the Empire, and all those who live within it. Yeah, you could probably say that we're kinda like, I don't know, best buddies now. But now that we're in the service of the Empire, we do need to fight the foes of said Empire, with that being the Brass Repugnants and the Blood Dragons. At the moment, we're at war. It's time for us to do an invasion. Since the Repugnants of the Brass Keep are pretty far away and the Blood Dragons are right over the mountains, I decided to sneak in with my army of just under 830 strong into their territory. My mission was to take the ancient city of Tal Silvak, and take it I would, by golly. I marched my men just on the outskirts of this ancient city and began setting up a siege, firing inside, attempting to kill as many of these vampiric bastards as possible before we began our initial attack. So it begins. Today, my brothers and sisters of Sigmar, we begin our very first siege, and we conquer our very first city.
For the Emperor!
Now, we were fairly well versed in this city and also the battle tactics of our enemies. You'll notice that they await for us at a choke point in the center of the city. But we're not going to be going through there. No, I would actually begin leading my men just upriver to a nearby bridge so that we may sneak in and attack them from behind. Which is exactly what we ended up doing. And it's situations like these that I'm very glad that I got quite proficient with a rifle, as I could stay just behind my men, sneaking behind the enemy line to attack them and shooting them in the back of the head, killing them, yada yada. Even with our genius battle tactics though, this fight was a bloodbath, an absolute chaotic mess. Good thing we're here to clean things up. Remember I told you earlier that I would keep my hammers with me in case we need them in battles? Yeah, I ended up needing them here, smashing heads like watermelons and maybe even a few pumpkins. I caved in the helmets and breastplates of these poor dumb animals so easily. I could tell that their steel wasn't great Imperial quality. Once we had finally butchered the brunt of their forces, there was nothing for these bastards to do but to run away like the cowards that they are. And as they did so, we would also begin chasing them down, killing as many as possible. And now that the city's defending force, if you could even call it that, has fled, victory was ours, and we would have many of them to take prisoner. Not to worry, as we will be taking them back to the proper authorities in Reichland to serve for their crimes. We don't want to offend the Emperor again. And now the great city of Enda Varian is ours, under the control of the Empire. Earlier, I think I said it was Tal Silvak. Bit of a mistake, but not to worry, we did come to the correct city, I think. It doesn't really matter, they're all going to be ours with time. This particular one, though, I think that I would like to keep for myself. I mean, I did conquer it. Thankfully, at the moment, we do indeed have just enough political clout to vote and get this one under our control. So now we are quite literally the Lord King of this city. But if we're going to be a Lord King over Imperial cities, we need to look the part. Otherwise, our subjects won't respect us. So we started spending a shit ton of money to get myself some proper armor, even one with a nice fancy cape and a much better helmet to protect everything. The only way they'll get through this is, well, maybe through my eye slits, I suppose. Now then, on to Tal Silvak. Now this pretty little village, not city as I previously thought that we were going to attack, would need to be, well, pillaged, unfortunately. But after that, what remained of my forces, after gaining a few new recruits, would ride to Tal Est to also conquer this city in the name of the Emperor.
For the Emperor!
See? I told you. A very similar strategy was used here to sneak up behind the city's defensive forces, and I would even take perch in a very large tower, firing down at my enemies with a blazing glory. And by the time it was all said and done, the rifle smoke dissipating into the air, we were once again victorious. Yet another glorious city in our name. Well, kinda. We didn't actually vote to keep Tal Est, as I was afraid I wouldn't be able to handle two cities right now with the amount of troops that I have, as I still need to march on further territories. But regardless, either way, a good chunk of these ancient lands and forests now belong to the Empire, rightfully so. At one point, we were tracking down the army of one of the vampiric generals of the Blood Dragons through rain, sleet, and even snow. The warm blood of our foes shall be spilled on these icy lands here today, gentlemen, and that you can count on. Killing, or at the very least imprisoning, one of these bloodsuckers will do wonders for the tides of war. God, I never get tired of hearing that. The icy cold mountains were quite the battlefield as we were erupting into multiple gunshots across these snowy lands. The undead were dropping like flies, and even were many of their crimson knights. There was one tiny issue though. Most of the men that we had in our ranks at this point were simple recruits, unbattle-hardened people with hardly any experience even wielding a sword, pistol, or bow. And once I had fallen in this battle without my command, my men unfortunately would end up retreating out of the area like cowards and also pulling me out by my bootstraps. However, it is my humble opinion that this does not mean that we lost. The battle was simply a stalemate, a draw, if you will. If my men weren't such cowards during this time, I think that we might have even won. What's this? Peace. Ugh. Fine, we'll have peace, as if we haven't killed enough of them, I guess. At least this way I won't have to keep contesting them for my city for now. Besides, there's plenty of other enemies of the Empire to strike down with our divine and holy light. Let's go find some of them, shall we? The repugnants of the Brass Keep are hardly even a threat at this point, to be honest with you. However, the forces of chaos, on the other hand, now that is a different story. There is an overabundance of their forces in the area, and so naturally they must be dealt with accordingly. We've defeated their chaos portal in the past, but this time around I think that there is a different solution required, such as taking back their city that they've captured from us. My men and myself would immediately begin laying siege to the city of Grinstant. We would besiege the city for many a week, even month, I think, but we were building several trebuchets and trying to destroy the walls of the city, which we would accomplish eventually. This was the easiest way to cleanse the city of the parasites that had taken it hostage. I have no doubt that these vermin are dug in deep into the city like a willow tree's roots, but we shall dig them out and prune them from every single corner and crevice. Alright boys, one last time for the Emperor. Atop my mighty mountain, my gilded armor, I would cross over the hallowed walls and begin firing at our enemies as our men attacked them from the front, wielding my glorious hammer smothered in chaotic blood. I could feel Sigmar within the air all around us, the divine light and power flowing through my muscles. I beat and I bashed and I gashed every single one of these chaos warriors to death. We would ensure by the end of this assault in this siege against the city, none of them would be left standing. I wish I could say that they fought well, but Quite frankly, that would be nothing but a straight lie. We ended up winning quite easily, which I mean makes sense since we outnumbered them 2-1. The streets were littered with their corpses and even a few of our own men. I suppose tonight we're going to have a great big bonfire right in the middle of the city. Oddly enough, we would end up capturing many, and I do indeed mean many, of the generals and warlords of the forces of chaos. We actually ended up capturing all of them, it would seem. It's just a bit strange that nobody had thought to attack the city thus far and end their reign across these lands once and for all. Oh well, more for us to execute. Sorry, Emperor. It's just the Empire settlements are so far away, and to be honest with you, I think I've earned the right to kill them. With these quite a few, final swings of my axe, the forces of chaos are no more, completely eradicated from these lands, never to be seen again. I suppose I truly have achieved my mission. For now, we would end up having a vote on who should get the city, and though most did not want me to, since I have quite a bit of political power, I ended up taking it for myself. Well deserved, I might add. I didn't see anyone else come here to help me take it, so I'm not looking to share. And with that, my friends, I think that my mission is finally complete. I got exactly what I wanted. My own city. 2 of my own cities, I might add. Many of my own lands for my children and my dynasty to prosper and thrive on under the name of the Emperor and Sigmar. Besides, I'm a humble man. I wouldn't want to ever become Emperor myself. Becoming the Lord and starting my very own dynasty that will last for thousands of years under the Empire, that's good enough for me. Small potatoes, you know? Anyway, I guess I'll see you later. But until then, remember, Sigmar protects, my friends. Hello, I want to thank you all ever so much for watching this video, as well as this little mini-series, I suppose. I know that this little series is a bit short, but to be honest with you, I don't know, I kind of feel like we're done. I've had a lot of fun, and conquering cities and stuff in Bannerlord takes a really long time, and though I am doing this full time now and I have time to do whatever, I kind of feel like the mission and the just thing with this character is done, right? The goals and whatnot. So becoming a witch hunter, a warrior priest, and then thus one of the highest, if not the highest ranking generals under the Emperor, I feel like that is something that he would be pretty content with, I suppose. But yes, thank you once again for watching. I love you guys. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you later. Goodbye.